Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and we hope that you enjoyed the welcome from Dr. Henderson. I am Heather Cope, and I am the Chief of Staff at the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children, and it is my privilege to welcome you to this first session today. Uh, a couple of quick housekeeping things just to make sure you have a smooth experience. You can chat with um, Maddie Batson, who is our speaker, and myself in the chat box. If you are having any tech problems, feel free to chat me. If you have questions, there's also a Q&A box, and so we'll have time for questions and answers at the end. So please put your questions in as they come up throughout the presentation. And so with that, let's get started. So it's my privilege to introduce to you Madeline Karst Batson, who is the Policy and Research Director at the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children. Maddie has a longstanding passion for helping vulnerable children, youth, and families flourish. She has pursued this passion as a student of public policy and teaching, been an active volunteer in community service, a federal child welfare policy advocate, a classroom educator, and most recently was the director of early childhood systems in the office of Governor John Bel Edwards. Uh, since she's transitioned out of the classroom from her role with for her role with the governor's office, Maddie utilized her education and experience to focus on a very specific challenge, which was improving the social, health, and education systems in Louisiana that shaped the critical first 5 years of a child's life. While serving under Governor Edwards, Maddie helped oversee the creation, passage, and implementation of historic investments in early childhood programs. Prior to her work in Louisiana, Maddie obtained her bachelor's degree in sociology and public policy and with a minor in philosophy, politics, and economics from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Even though she's a Tar Heel, we don't hold it against her. Maddie was also selected as a Teacher America Corps member and fulfilled her 2-year service commitment in New Orleans. While she was teaching, she got her master's in teaching, and after that, she spent an additional 2.5 years as an educator in Jefferson Parish. With that, I turn it over to you, Maddie.
Thank you, Heather. Yes, that was a long bio. Woo. But thank you, everyone, for having me. If you'll give me just a moment, I am going to share my screen. All right. Well, good morning, and thank you for signing up to spend part of your morning with me. I will be reviewing just an overview of what early care and education looks like in Louisiana. Like Heather said, my name is Madeline Karst Batson, and if you have any questions, you can put them in the Q&A box. I am the Director of Policy and Research at the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children, and we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan source of research and information for policymakers and constituents for children ages birth through 4. During the presentation today on early ed in Louisiana, we'll review what early childhood education is, our history of policy and progress, the current status of our programs, what locals are doing to support expanding access, the financial cost it has to families, and the impact our early care and education system has on our communities and the economy. So, what is early care and education? Early care and education programs serve children from birth to age 5 or until they enter kindergarten. From birth through age 4, children's brains are growing at the quickest speed of their lifetime. Because of this exponential brain development, the environment and experiences children have set the foundation for their future success at school and in life. Across the state, there are several different types of formal childcare options that families can choose from. The only types of childcare that receive any public funding, though, are Type 3 providers and registered with academic approval family childcare providers. Any provider who receives public funding is also part of our early child education accountability system. Children in these Type 3 and certified family childcare programs experience a developmentally appropriate curriculum that aligns with the Department of Education's early learning and development standards. The early childhood educators in these centers are overwhelmingly credentialed and are formally evaluated at least twice a year, much like I was as a K-12 teacher and our other teachers in the K-12 system. How we got here today is largely due to a steadfast momentum of intentional advocacy and legislative policy actions over several decades. The progress we have made is in part due to the fact that early child early childhood education has been a bipartisan issue that generally people can agree on. As these successful policy initiatives have occurred both in Republican and Democratic administrations, that point seems to continue to hold true. One of the first critical actions in creating a high-quality early education system was in 2001, when the legislature passed a bill creating the LA4 preschool program within the Department of Education. At the time, our Department of Children and Family Services administered most of the early childhood programs. So this was a significant moment of recognizing that education before kindergarten is critical to the future academic success of our kids. In 2007, Louisiana led the nation with the passage and implementation of the school readiness tax credits, known as SRTCs. The credits were designed to strengthen the quality of childcare in Louisiana by encouraging programs to participate in the accountability system and to encourage early educators to obtain higher credentials, to encourage parents to choose higher rated centers, and to encourage businesses to invest in the childcare resource and referral agencies. There are 5 credits. One is for parents who send their children to high quality rated centers. Another one for providers based on the number of children they serve in the child care assistance program or foster care. There's another for directors and staff based on their education level attainment. And there's actually 2 for businesses. Employers can receive a credit for eligible child care expenses based on the quality rating of the center, or a business may claim a tax credit for grants to child care resource and referral agencies. To this day, states are working to pass their own version of SRTCs and frequently reach out to Louisiana for guidance on how to do that, which is pretty awesome. Although the SRTCs made a noticeable impact on the quality of early education providers, our early education system was divided among several state agencies at this time, making it difficult to efficiently and effectively expand access, increase quality, and adequately respond to the needs of children, families, and providers. The passage of Act 3 in 2012 did what many states are still trying to do, which is unify early childhood education programs under one state agency, which in our case is the Louisiana Department of Education. This is another moment where Louisiana led the nation, signaling the value we held on early care and education, that it was a public good, not a social service. By 2016, the Department of Education had developed a set of academic and developmental standards, Tier 1 curriculum guides, and a system for training and supporting early childhood educators. During this time, they also implemented their new quality rating system known as CLASS, which would go on to gain notoriety among national researchers. Since implementing their quality rating system and subsequent quality improvement and coaching protocols, providers across the state continued to improve. In fact, for the last 2 years, we have had 0 unsatisfactory childcare providers in the state, which is a testament both to the dedication of the department and early educators. The last significant point of progress that I would like to point out is the passage and exponential success of the Early Childhood Education Fund, which provides a 1-to-1 state match to locally raised funding for early childhood education programs. I will share more about this innovative fund later in the presentation, and you'll also hear more about it throughout the day today. It's important to recognize in these moments of progress that each policy decision had a positive impact on access and quality, and set a strong foundation for the programs that we are providing in the state today. What's also important to note, though, about these programs is that they serve all different types of families in our state, and a vast majority of these programs specifically support working parents. These parents are your neighbors, firefighters, police officers, bank tellers, and your teachers. Therefore, truly, the more robust and early education system that we can create in our state, the more robust and successful of an economy and local communities we will have. So, what are these programs and who are they serving? The Department of Education, under the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, also known as BESE's guidance, administers several state and federally funded programs for children under age 5. Several of these programs are entirely funded by the federal government, such as Head Start and Title I programs, which you may have already heard about. Others are entirely state funded, such as a non-public school early childhood development program known as NSECD, But our two largest programs are funded by a combination of state and federal funds. 4 of the 8 programs listed here are specifically for 4-year-olds too, while the others support a range of ages of kids under 5. All of these programs, however, are subject to the accountability system and have specific eligibility guidelines to determine who qualifies. You can find all of those eligibility guidelines on the Department of Education's website. Through these combined funds, totaling more than $566 million, we serve approximately 52,600 children in our publicly funded early learning programs. But what's important to know is that the programs I put on the slides previously are not the only ECE programs that we have in the state. And actually, when we total up everything, we actually serve closer to 60,000 kiddos under age 5. But in this presentation, we only focus on the larger ones. While the state has previously increased its contribution to help children access early education programs, I think it's noteworthy to mention that the federal government still carries the largest fiscal burden to ensure that kids have access to high quality care. But locals too see the importance of investing in early childhood education programs. Over the last few years, they have raised millions of dollars through the Early Childhood Education Fund, also known as the ECE Fund, to expand access to our most underserved age group, birth to 3-year-olds. The ECE Fund was established in 2017 and offers a dollar-for-dollar state match to local investment for early childhood seats. With 86% of our in-need 4-year-olds being served already by several of our publicly funded programs, it was important for locals to dedicate their efforts on ensuring infants and toddlers get access to early education programs when they need to. Fiscal year 22-23 was the first year we saw local communities successfully fundraise eligible funds for this program. And in just 3 years, we have gone from 4 localities receiving a match to 13. And as you can see on the map, the popularity of this fund reaches truly across the state. To help support the exponential growth of local investment, the legislature has passed several dedicated funding streams contributing to the ECE Fund. These streams generate around $15 million each year. The innovative funding strategies at the local and state level are another area in which Louisiana actually is ahead of the curve nationally. Locally raised funds go right back into the community from which they came and expand affordable access to quality early care and education to our families who need it most. The total match amount for this fiscal year was over $30 million, which local communities are really proud of, and they should be. However, the revenue sources to the ECE Fund did not generate enough funds each year to cover the state's portion of the match. Unless the legislature allocates additional funds, they will not be able to make the match potentially as early as next fiscal year. What that means for thousands of children in this program is that they will immediately lose access to their child care seat, and their parents will be at immediate risk of having to quit their jobs to care for their children. To put this in context, one community that has benefited from the ECE Fund is Donaldsonville in Ascension Parish. A landscape analysis found that there were no formal childcare options for families in the city of Donaldsonville, meaning that parents would either have to choose a center far away from where they work and live or not to work at all. And for many families, neither one of those options is doable. Understanding the importance of access to childcare for their employees, CF Industries partnered with local officials and contributed $1 million that, with the match, is able to double an impact. Through revitalizing a historic and unused building in downtown Donaldsonville, the West Ascension Early Learning Center, in partnership with Nichols State University, serves 55 children who otherwise would not have access to early education. 44 of those children are residents of Donaldsonville, and 13 of the children have parents that are employed in the town as well. The localized need for birth to 3-year-old seats is made evident by the fact that they have over 100 families on their wait list right now. Having access to an affordable childcare seat is critical for so many of our working families in the state. And while federal and state governments' total contribution to the various early childhood education programs in our state total over $500 million, we still only serve 18% of eligible birth to 3-year-olds in Louisiana. What is important to understand is that the goal of a successful early care and education system is that when parents have children, they are able to choose the child care arrangement that is best for their family. Really, at the center of it is parent choice. However, the reality is that there are at least 3,200 working parents and over 6,000 children who qualify for child care assistance but are unable to access it due to a years-long wait list. The department actually breaks down the waitlist numbers by parish, which you might find interesting, and you can find that on their CCAP page on their website. When families cannot access child care assistance, they are left to bear the entire cost of child care. And with child care often costing more than a state college tuition, it is, for many families, completely unaffordable. Think about it. You can save money for 18 years before your child goes to college. But this is not the case for many families when it comes to paying for an early education for their kids when they're born till they're age 5. So it really has a heavy burden on families when they're not able to receive any type of assistance. To put this into perspective, the income eligibility cap for the Child Care Assistance Program, as I've been saying, is also known as CCAP, is 85% of the state median income. Families who earn at or below 65% of the state median income have the total cost of child care covered by the Child Care Assistance Program. Families earning between 66 SMI and 85 SMI contribute a portion of the cost of child care based on a sliding fee scale, as seen in the third column. In Louisiana, for a family of 4, 85% of the state median income is nearly $74,000. Families who make $1 over that are not eligible for any assistance in paying for childcare, meaning they must cover the full cost of it. As shown in the last column of the table, just because a family makes more than the eligibility threshold does not mean that they can suddenly afford the full cost of childcare. Our annual statewide parent poll, that is actually live now, we can get to you in the post-session resources, show the issues that parents with young children have across Louisiana when they're trying to access childcare. The steep assistance cliff of our working parents disincentivizes them from pursuing higher education, better careers, or taking promotions, causing a ripple effect on their family's financial stability and the success of our overall economy. And we've seen that time and time again through our parent poll survey that is statewide. The compounding negative impact that the lack of high-quality, affordable childcare has on our short-term and long-term workforce is why investing in childcare is so important. As a short-term workforce issue, when working parents do not have a reliable and affordable option for their child, they are forced to arrive to work late, leave early, miss work entirely, or quit. And stunningly, these childcare breakdowns cost our state economy $1.3 billion with a B dollars every year. Increasing access to high quality and affordable childcare would have an immediate positive impact on workforce participation and our families' financial stability, creating a stronger economy and a better Louisiana for everyone. But having access to childcare is also a long-term workforce issue. The well-prepared children of today become the competitive workforce of tomorrow. In a longitudinal study, the Council for a Better Louisiana found that children who were in the LA4 program, which is a program for 4-year-olds in our public schools, had significantly higher rates of kindergarten readiness, were 45% less likely to need special education services, and consistently outperformed their peers on 4th and 8th grade assessments. We also know that when children succeed in school, they are better prepared to transition into adulthood with the skills they need to thrive in their careers. From longitudinal studies, we also know that children who experience high-quality early education are more likely to have higher paying and full-time jobs and better health outcomes, and are less likely to use drugs or participate in the criminal justice system in adulthood. The education to career success realized in children who attend high quality early learning programs fuel our labor market with competitive talent and increase workforce productivity, attracting new business and boosting the economic development of our state. Additionally, these positive health, social, and academic outcomes together equate to a large short and long-term cost savings, leading to what Nobel laureate economist James Heckman found to be a 13% return on investment, making investing in early care and education one of the best ways to spend our public dollars. By investing early, we spend far less on remedial academic, social, and health services and programs and realize more in academic success in a thriving economy that attracts new talent and businesses. We at the Policy Institute and we researchers are not the only ones who feel this way. An overwhelming majority of voters from all political affiliations believe that early childhood should be a state priority in Louisiana. And most voters across all party lines and geographical regions also believe that investing in early care and education is a good use of our taxpayer dollars. And lastly, voters overwhelmingly agree that investments in early childhood education should be long-term and robust to ensure that more young children and their working parents have the opportunity to succeed at school and in life. We know a strong Louisiana starts with our children. So by continuing to focus on ways to improve quality and access, and by seeking out innovative, sustainable, and substantial investments into our programs, we can work towards a brighter, more prosperous future for our families. Thank you so much for letting me spend time with you this morning. And if you have any questions, we are more than happy to answer them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maddie. We do have some questions. First, you covered it a little bit, but we did have a question about the CCAP waitlist. If you can just review how many children are currently on the wait list, and then there was a follow-up question about what can be done to change that. Basically, what can we do to get kids off the wait list?
Sure, that's a great question. So, according to the Department of Education, we have about 6,100 kids waiting on the CCAP wait list across the state. And some of those children have been waiting for years. Our wait list started back in 2022, actually of October. And since then, the department has been taking in child care assistance program applications and reviewing them to make sure children are eligible. Once they're determined to be eligible, they are put on that wait list based off of the month that they applied. And so from what I understand, the department is currently re-verifying waitlist applications or waitlist positions from summer-ish of 2023. So, for example, if you applied today and were able to get your application verified or were deemed eligible by, let's say, December of 2024, you potentially are waiting over a year on that wait list. And what keeps our wait list from moving forward, which this might seem like a cop-out answer, but it's absolutely the truth, is our lack of sustainable and substantial investments into the program. Our state Department of Education has received notoriety nationally on the quality of our quality rating system. We have been recognized for our ability to expend federal funds that are given to us. It is rare that we give money back to the federal government. When we get it, we spend it because that's the right thing to do for our kids and families. And so the systems in place in the state really are capable of doing more. And we learned that during COVID as well. We were serving upwards of 28,000 kids just in CCAP and the B3 program. And now that has dwindled down by about 10,000 kids. So providers have more capacity. Our state system, while it is not perfect, just like any state system isn't perfect, it has the capacity to really take in applications and put children into care. While those two things are true, what we are missing then really is better funding at the state and even federal and local levels as well.
Great. Thanks, Maddie. Another couple of questions have come in about with the upcoming change in the administration federally, what we think that might mean for early childhood education programs in Louisiana. Like, will there be changes? What could be the impact for us here?
That's another great question. And unfortunately, my crystal ball is not next to me right now. But what I will say is that going into the election, the Congress seemed to, at the very least, hold steady on most early care and education programs funding wise. We would hope to see that would continue, at least just holding steady. But it really depends on what this new administration decides as their priorities. And we do hope that childcare is one of those things. It certainly came up during the campaign cycle, but we really won't be able to know more until probably early next year.
Great. There is a question about if we know sorry, I'm finding the question. It says asking about, given our long history of early childhood policy and programs in Louisiana, what do we know about Louisiana children's kindergarten readiness, third grade reading, high school graduation, and post-secondary outcomes? Basically, if children engage in early care and education programs, what do we know about their long-term outcomes?
Yeah, so Council for a Better Louisiana, as I mentioned in my presentation, did look at that. They wanted to see, okay, so what happens with these kiddos who are in our 4-year-old pre-K programs? How do they do as they age in life? And while they did focus more on academic outcomes, whereas other national longitudinal studies also focus on the health and social outcomes of kids, what we know from Louisiana researchers on Louisiana children is that they do start kindergarten on time. They are more likely to, at least, and they start ready, not just on time, but that they're ready. And that they maintain that readiness in third grade, which we know is a particular area of interest for our state right now, with policy solutions for third grade literacy. We know they do better than their peers in third grade, and throughout high school tested better than their peers who did not participate in LA4. They were more likely to graduate on time and were more likely to have really successful pivots to their post-high school graduation decisions, whether that's in the career or post-secondary schooling. I would say that there still needs to be a lot of what we found from other research too nationally is that there still needs to be a lot of connections made between early care and education and the birth to 5 space and our K-12 system. We are not two separate things. We really are a continuum. And so the stronger we start our kids, the stronger they can get into the K-12 system. And then the stronger we make our K-12 system, the more likely our kids are going to continue to succeed.
Okay. Thanks, Maddie. Let's see. Somebody asked, how can we support funding at the local level? I'm guessing they mean for early childhood programs.
Yeah, so you're going to hear a lot more about that throughout the day, so I won't steal the show. But locally, we've seen some really exciting ideas, both from investment in philanthropy, investment in economic development corporations, and institutions. We've also really seen elected officials finding solutions either at the city level or at the parish level for changing up how they tax. And what we've seen too is that we know taxpayers are behind that as well. So that's the only preview I'll give you because you're going to learn more about that today.
Great. And then someone asked, as an advocate for early childhood education in Louisiana, what should we be asking our legislators? Any specifics to pinpoint?
Well, first of all, we need to make sure our legislators understand that the birth to 5 space really is early learning. And it is an educational environment that is developmentally appropriate for our children. It is not the daycare of the 1980s or 1990s. It's not babysitting. And really that might, for many of us, feel like a foundational understanding that we already have. Many legislators are far removed from that time with their children, and so they may not understand really what the changes have been, particularly in our state since Act 3 in 2012. And so really engaging with them, helping them understand first what early education really is, If you are connected to childcare providers, please invite your local elected officials from all levels to a center for a center visit. It is amazing watching their faces light up when they really connect all the dots. And I think once they are able to see it for what it is, it really makes a big difference on how they perceive early ed. And the last thing I would say too is to really help them understand that this notion of but that we can fund early ed piecemeal and just with every year fighting for it as if our kids don't age. Just like our kids in K-12, we have a long-term sustainable funding system for our kids in K-12 because we realize kids age and they don't just go to school for 1 year and then disappear. The same thing should be for early care and education. We really need to start looking at it in a long-term perspective of long-term funding so that when a kiddo gets into care and at age 1, they're able to feel that that seat is going to be funded until they reach their kindergarten age. And that's not only good for our kids, but it's good for our parents too. It's good for our workforce. So with talking to legislators, totally mention the fact that early ed is education. Also help them connect the dots that it's not just education for our kids, but it's continuing education for our parents. It's their ability to work if they want to. And then with all of that being said, we know that we need more funding. Our system can handle more. We've done more for children and families. We've seen that in like recent years. So what we need truly is more funding into the child care assistance program and ensuring that our early education fund is adequately funded so that we can make those matches.
Great, thanks, Maddie. Let's see, we have a question about redetermination for CCAP and wondering why families have to reapply and re-verify if they are already verified for other public programs as well.
Getting to a place where our state really has a one app kind of concept for public assistance would be awesome. And there's certainly other states that are trying that out. I would hope to see that there would be an opportunity for that in our state too, so that when a parent, let's say, applies for CCAP, they're automatically then applying, at least in part, to, let's say, other assistance programs that they might qualify for, so that we really create a wraparound support for our kids and our parents. We know we do better when that's the case. So creating that kind of one app or a system where you apply to one and it connects you to the next one, we are looking into hoping to bring to our state soon, at least in the next few years. For re-verifying, there are very specific qualifications for childcare assistance. For example, you either have to be in school part-time at least 20 hours, or you have to be working at least 20 hours to be able to qualify. And if I applied way back a year ago, my financial, my home life, my situation might have changed. And so to ensure that the kids who are getting enrolled in childcare assistance are really the ones that we deem most necessary to be enrolled, that's why there's that re-verification process. I will say that that process is not seamless. It is not easy for parents. And while I understand why we might need to do it, there is also a lot of research into how do we make it a not so daunting process for families. And actually our federal government says, if you're going to spend our federal money, you really need to be finding solutions to make sure that parents aren't completely getting kicked out of CCAP because they forgot to fax a certain document within a certain amount of days that you happen to mail, right, in the real mail. So the federal government is trying to push states to find better solutions that make it easier for families to not only get enrolled in CCAP or get on a wait list, but then keep their eligibility once they're in there.
Great, thanks, Maddie. We have a question about serving children who have developmental disabilities and other special needs, and just what is the state doing to provide assistance to educators and parents to help set these children up for success?
That's a great question. And actually, we just recently changed our child care assistance eligibility requirements for children with developmental delays so that they don't have to pay their copay. So co-payments are now waived for children with disabilities, which just means that that's a lesser burden on parents who are loving their children well and wanting them to be in a developmentally appropriate space. So that's exciting. That is a exciting, positive change in the way that we administer a child care assistance program. Insofar as training our teachers to know how to best care for our children of all abilities, there is a lot of work done by our child care resource and referral agencies, our Ready Start network. Coaches are doing the best they can, I would assume, and would confidently say, to make sure that our teachers are better ready to care for all kids. I would probably assume that there's some work there to be done. And so actually, if you have, whoever that question was, if you have your own experience with that, please reach out to your Ready Start network or your community network or your resource and referral agency to bring awareness to what you feel like you're seeing is lacking in your child or in your friend's child's experience in their early ed classroom.
Thanks, Maddie. And we have a question just sort of wondering about generally the kind of assistance and training that's available to childcare providers just to help them, provide the best environment and education to children that they serve. So can you just talk about what's available in the state?
Yeah, and I'm not an expert in this area, but what I do know is that to be a lead teacher, you do have to have early childhood ancillary certificate, which is a 2-year associate's degree level credential. So there's one level of making sure our our teachers are trained. And then throughout the year, through class observations and other internal observations that providers might have, they are looking to see how teachers are doing with like the quality of the interactions with the kids, the educational or instructional environment with the kids. So they are getting evaluated on not only the quality of their instruction, but the quality of the interaction that they are having with kids, right? That really like the relationship that they're building with their kids and among other kids in the classroom is what's evaluated in part. So with those class scores, providers are really able to tailor with other coaching support from the parish or the district, really tailored feedback for teachers and are able to coach them up to do better for their class observations. So if you are familiar with the K-12 structure, it actually looks pretty similar to that.
Okay, thanks, Maddie. I'm just running through everything to see what other questions might have come in.
Just wanted to shout out our friend Erin St. Pierre from St. Tammany. She actually did drop the wait list by parish from the department's website. Thank you so much, Erin. I appreciate that. And Heather did drop the Council for a Better Louisiana study in the chat as well. Please take a look at that if you're interested.
Oh, I might have to repost Erin's comment because it doesn't go to everyone here.
Oh,
I will put it. Oh no, you're good. There we go. Let me double check. Okay.
Yeah, well, just to close out, before Heather closes us out, we have a ton of information on our website, policyinstitutela.org. And of course, all of our contact information is on there too, but we have it broken down by maybe how you serve in the community. If you're a parent, if you're a provider, if you're an elected official, we have a ton of live updating stuff on our website as well. So really to take a look over there. And if you have any questions, the Policy Institute, like we are here to be your advocate and to help you get an independent source of information regarding ECE. So we want to help you and certainly would love to hear your experiences as well. And our website is policyinstitutela.org.
Maddie, while I close out, could you type that in the chat to everyone?
Yes.
Oh, wait, Victoria already did it. Thanks, Vic. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. And thank you again to Maddie for a great presentation, answering questions, sharing her expertise. When we end the session, the Zoom app will close out and you'll go back into the event lobby. When you go there, please take a moment to complete the survey about this session. It'll be a pop-up at the top of the top right of your screen, apparently. In the lobby, you can check the sessions tab at the top for details on the next sessions, which will start at 10:05. In the meantime, you can feel free to hang out in the lobby, network with others, put stuff in the chat box or in a private chat. And if you have any additional questions or need assistance, our team is here to help. So feel free to chat for that in the lobby. And again, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in the next session. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.